This is the Seahawkers podcast, episode 447. I'm Brandon Schultz of the Military Seahawkers, and I am joined by my good buddy and Montana Seahawker, or Yellowstone Seahawker. I saw this week they changed their name, Adam. It's the Yellowstone Seahawkers now. How you doing, buddy?
Well, I'm doing awesome because the Seahawks went out and kicked the crap out of the lowly Falcons. I know everybody are saying they're still a good team and all that. They weren't a good team coming in. They're a bad team going out. But either way, it was a big win, something that they really needed. That was really cool. In terms of the Montana Seahawkers changing to the Yellowstone Seahawkers, this is a massive problem to me because now we are celebrating the river that flows the wrong direction from our state. Like that's that's Eastern Flatlander crap. And no, I don't want to be a member of the Yellowstone Seahawkers. I want to be the Montana Seahawkers. But, you know, I didn't really voice an opinion.
Without bringing too much drama into this, is it possible that we could celebrate it as because Yellowstone National Park, it actually does belong to the state of Montana. And so I think it's less the river, more so the national park.
Yellowstone belongs. It's almost all in Wyoming.
Why don't you shut your dirty mouth? Can't we just claim it and call it good?
No, because I'm fine with Yellowstone being in Wyoming because Glacier is the far superior national park. And that is
the entrances to Yellowstone are primarily in Montana.
That's right. Maybe we just get the revenue. That's cool. But that's what people came here for, was national park discussions and group names for sure. Definitely not the fact that the Seahawks went down to Atlanta and ended up really thumping the Falcons at the end of the day.
We got to see Kenneth Walker have a nice, people are calling it a flu game. And I don't know if it was quite the level of Jordan flu game, but it was a really good game by Walker. Maybe if he gets 3 touchdowns, then, hey, then we're really making the comparison. But heck of a game by Walker. And we saw a good first half from Geno. I want to talk a little bit about the second half a little bit as we get into the show. But Adam, in addition to the win over the Falcons, we've got some news this week. The Seahawks make a trade with the Tennessee Titans to bring in linebacker Ernest Jones, and they send away Jerome Baker in the process, along with a 4th-round draft pick.
Yeah, and I think the 4th-round draft pick is the important part of this and the thing that is intriguing about the trade. In terms of Baker, holy smokes, because he didn't play the first 2 games, is that right, of this season? Yeah, so it's something like that. First 2 or 3 games, whatever it was. So 4 or 5 games of Jerome Baker and the cowboy collar. And Coach Mike said, no, I'm done with this nonsense. You get out of here, and decides to pull the trigger alongside John Schneider, I'm sure, to bring in Ernest Jones instead and jettison Baker off to banishment in Tennessee. So interesting thing to go down here. It really reminds me of when the Seahawks were doing a zillion roster moves in the first couple of years of the Pete and John marriage. And I think I like it, the move. I think so, but I'm not 100% sure.
I think I like it because the Rams and the 2 Rams fans that I saw talking about this online, it made it sound like they were really upset with the trade with the Titans and Ernest Jones leaving. I wasn't actually surprised when the Rams made that trade, just because he's going into a contract year and the Rams never pay linebackers. And so it kind of made sense to me that they were just trying to get something for him. The fact that they got a pick swap with the Titans, that was a little bit surprising to me, because you're trading to move from a 6th-round pick up to a 5th-round pick if you're the Rams, and sending one of your better linebackers to the Titans in the process. That part of it seemed like maybe there was something there to read into. But a good linebacker, it does feel a tinge of having some frustration with Jerome Baker, just based on what you said, that it was relatively small amount of time. We'd heard some of the talk from Coach Mike that not happy with some of the 2nd-level run fits, and to also give up a 4th-round pick and sending a player, it works out well for the Titans, who probably aren't playing for anything this year. And all they had to do is give up a pick swap earlier. And now they have a 4th-round pick from the Seahawks.
Yeah. So from the Titans perspective, that is a nice move right there. Just only having to give up the pick swap to bring in Jones and then turning that into a 4th round pick. It's pretty smart right there. And Baker obviously has an expiring because he's on a 1-year deal. So kudos to them. That was something that I think helps them down the line here. It does make you wonder as a Seahawks fan, you're like, well, shoot, like how much did we overpay them by sending this 4th round pick when just a couple months ago they got him for just basically a pick swap? But then are the Rams really going to trade Ernest Jones within the division? I doubt it.
No.
Like, I think that you weren't ever going to be able to get involved with that. So a 4th round pick for a guy who has played well the last couple of years, especially last year, that was his best year and has been on the ascent, only 24 years old, but a linebacker going into a contract year. You got to think if you're sending a 4th round pick to go get him, that there's already been some conversation between Schneider and the agent about what they're going to do contract wise. I don't think you just pull a Jets here and bring in Hassan Reddick without having at least the structure of a deal in place going forward. So I don't know, man. It's a really interesting move to me because I do think he's an upgrade over Baker. What I wonder about is 2 things. One, 2 teams have now given up on him in the span of 6 months. Like that's weird for a good player. Maybe get the 4th for basically nothing for the Titans ends up being something they just can't refuse. And like, we're not going anywhere anyway. So who cares? But the Rams to give up on him and not want to pay him, that's the part that alarms me a little bit. Are we overvaluing a guy that maybe isn't viewed the same way around the league? I don't know.
I think the reason why we're both a little bit hesitant sounding on this is because, well, you bring up the contract issue, and we've seen it done now a couple different times. When Jamal Adams we traded multiple picks to get Adams, no contract in place. We waited till the end of the first year and then signed him to a big deal. That didn't work out. Then we bring in Leonard Williams, also used a 2nd round pick, so a lot higher pick, but didn't set up a contract with him as part of that deal, waited until the end of the season, ultimately ended up paying him a good sized contract. It feels like that one's worked out, at least definitely better than the Jamal Adams. We're only a few games into the season, but it doesn't seem like we were getting less from Leonard Williams after paying him a big contract. So I guess I'm not as concerned about not having a contract for him in place because it's only a 4th round pick. And I say only, but we're starting to lose picks now based off of multiple trades that John Schneider's done here through the first part of the season. You wonder how those picks are going to ultimately be recouped, because you don't want to go into a draft after this year where you're going to have very few picks and still a new coaching staff. There's all those parts to it too. And then there's the part of whether or not Ernest Jones is good. I think he's going to be good. It's just that idea of, I kind of like how the Rams have done it historically of not paying linebackers. But then I look and I saw what the turnaround that happened in Baltimore once they brought in Roquan Smith, and it seemed to make that entire defense for Mike Macdonald work together. And so I think all the optimistic parts of us as Seahawks fans are going, well, maybe Ernest Jones can be our Roquan Smith.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought up Roquan. It was definitely a thought that had come to my mind as well. And the idea being that, yeah, when they brought in Roquan, you heard Harbaugh talk about how much he changed the Ravens, like not just defensively, but changed the fabric of the team and how important that trade was. And Mike Macdonald being a linebacker centric guy, let alone a defensive centric guy, looking for somebody that can come in and perform at a higher level than Baker, obviously, and then also be a culture tone setter. I think you're probably trying to find a guy much like Pete and John did when they brought in Marshawn, and just trying to find a guy that can be a core fabric type player in the system. And I think that's probably what Mike is seeing here. He's like, look, I can get my young, dynamic linebacker that's going to be even better in my system for a whole 4th round pick. And we got to give him a contract at some point here. Sign me up. I think that's Mike's philosophy here. And there's a part of me that does get excited about that, because if Ernest Jones can be a guy that comes in and is kind of the key that unlocks the defense to play at an even higher level going forward, even just this season, then yeah, I get kind of fired up for this move. But when I think about it in terms of, well, the Rams didn't want him and the Titans didn't want him, and we gave up a 4th round pick and we might have to pay him some money, like, then I get a little squeamish about it. So I don't know, man. I'm really on the fence with this one.
A couple things with that. The Rams trying to decide whether they wanted him or didn't want him. I just think it kind of comes down to that core philosophy of, do you pay your guys up front or do you pay other guys on that defense, whether it's at corner, linebacker? The Rams historically have been able to do without that guy at linebacker and still operate their defense effectively. Ernest Jones was the Rams defensive captain, so it's not like they didn't think highly of him. Obviously, his teammates thought highly enough of him to give him the C. That part I like. And, if we end up having to pay linebacker to have an effective defense, I'm okay with that too, because I think with the production that we saw last year out of Jones, I mean, shoot, he had 6 sacks. So he's a guy who can pressure the quarterback. He does have a certain level of intensity that I did not get from Jerome Baker. And so I like the move overall, but just the trading away draft picks, like, I think we have to be done now.
Do you? I don't know. I think if you can go out and grab guys that fit in the league a certain kind of way and can be a leader of your team and a part of the change in culture that Mike has to implement here as a first-time head coach, I think maybe it's a little more valuable to get the more proven commodity right now than maybe even in year 3 in the Coach Mike experience here. So I don't know. Like I said, I think I like it. Would I start
so
to...
we should trade a first-round pick to get Damian Lewis back at left guard is what I'm hearing from you.
Well, what are we talking about here? We 4th rounder for Ernest Jones, and what was it for? We don't have very
many picks left. We're going to have to start using the top ones.
Yeah, no, save the top ones. Don't worry about that. Then we can be done. Maybe you're right there. And I think in terms of having to pay the guy, towards the top of the market, we're talking guys are getting what, like $35-45 million at inside linebacker. Like, it's not receiver money. It's not quarterback money. It's not even edge money, not corner money. So if you're going to pay, maybe it's a market inefficiency that you can pay for one of the top guys. Hopefully he's one of the top guys. We'll see when he fits into the system. Like, when you threw out those numbers, are you throwing out over the term of the contract, or are you going yearly? Okay. When you said 35, I was thinking, well, that is wide receiver money. No, I'm talking like, for the full contract in terms of per year. I don't know what does it look like? I mean, I'm kind of guessing here. What is the yearly? Do you know? Do you well, let's see here on Spot Track. What do you got? I can pull up Spot Track and look at, let's say, inside linebackers. Roquan Smith is at the top of the market, and it is he's still at the top of the market after getting paid in 2023. With that $20 million a year average, 5 years, $100 million. So if you look at the guys who are at the top of the market, who got paid this offseason, it's Patrick Queen, who was a 3-year, $40 million contract, so about 13.5 average. Azeez Al-Shaair for the Texans, who was 3 years, $34 million. So there's where you pulled that number, I think. And Zaire Franklin. So they're all kind of in that 35 to 41. Jordan Brooks top 5. Well, and he's under 10 million a year. Well, if he performs the way that you're hoping, you're probably going to end up paying somewhere in there. It's not a massive amount of money towards the cap. I imagine the cap's going to go up again next year. And if he's the type of player that Mike needs to take the run defense from where it is right now, which is really inconsistent at best, to a at least middle of the pack run defense, if he can do that, I'm not saying he can, I'm hopeful he can, then he'd be worth every single penny of that.
I think it has the capability to have a big impact because you're putting Ernest Jones now in the middle, and then you're moving Tyrell Dotson over to the weak side, which is what Jerome Baker was playing. And so I think that makes a little more sense. Tyrell Dotson as a middle linebacker for his size did not make a whole lot of sense to me.
No, and with his speed, I think that it does make that fit a little nicer and cleaner. I'm curious, just bringing him in here today, does that mean he's going to be out there for the Bills game, I wonder? Or is it going to be like Tyreek and Dotson here?
I would expect him to be out there. The question would be how much ultimately he plays, and really how much of a benefit would it be that he plays when you're going up against a pass-heavy team as opposed to a run-heavy team. And so maybe he's one of those guys that, sure, you put him in there on some of the rundowns primarily. And for the Bills, what's that, first down? Like every other first down, maybe?
Pretty much, yeah. They don't run it a lot, but they do run it effectively. So he could be useful. I don't know.
Well, that's going to be something to get into as we preview the matchup coming up between the Seahawks and the Buffalo Bills. But we have a game to talk about with the Atlanta Falcons, Adam. I know there's some things that I'd like to get into. I'm sure there's some things that you'd like to get into. There's injury to talk about with DK Metcalf, who suffered a grade 1 MCL sprain, which means that less than 10% of the ligament fibers in his knee were torn, and that hit on the sideline. Generally, 1 to 3 weeks is recovery time. I know it sounded like he wanted to be out there back for this week against the Bills. Based on reports on Wednesday, it sounds like it's likely that he's going to miss the Bills game. And then you have to wonder, too, do you miss next week and then go into the bye? So that way you get that full 3 weeks of recovery time, come back healthy after the bye, and be good to go.
Yes, that's what you do. 100%. Are the Seahawks winning the Super Bowl this year?
I want to believe that.
Okay. On the scale of 1 to 10 in likeliness, what is the likelihood?
What are we doing trading for Ernest Jones if this is not a move to help us make it to the Super Bowl this year, Adam?
He's 24 years old. It's a move for the future. All of this is for the future. Right. Yeah, for sure. That's one of the things that we have to keep our eye on. This is definitely closer to a rebuild than a reload.
And we want DK's CLs to be all intact as we stretch out the run of the season. I think the thing, especially watching the Bucs game, and you're watching Mike Evans go out there and catch his 100th touchdown pass and put his hand toward his hamstring, and you're like, ooh, yeah, maybe he should come out. And then he stays in, and then he injures it even worse, trying to bring in another touchdown pass. You don't want to send a DK out there and for a game against the Rams in the middle of the season that you don't really need, one, because it's the Rams, and two, you want a healthy DK.
100%. And we talked about it before the season, Brendan. Like, at the end of the day, the record this year, it can be anywhere from 6 wins to 12 wins. And it honestly, in a lot of ways, doesn't really matter. What really matters is that the team starts to take on Coach Mike's personality, play a certain kind of way, instill that in the players, and show growth with that mindset throughout the year. Because let's face it, the odds that the Seahawks are winning the Super Bowl this year are what, like 5%? It's just not feasible, and it's not what you're trying to do. Okay. Like, I was trying to be generous. So yeah, keep DK on the sideline, protect him from himself, because if you are going to pay him a massive wide receiver contract coming up here this offseason, like, be sure that you're not damaging the goods before you give him a big ass check. Like, I'm good with it, man. Just take your time, DK, do your thing. And yeah, I think they can beat the Rams without DK. I think that's possible with as poorly as their defense plays. And in terms of the Bills game, like even with DK, are you feeling like you're going to be able to really take them toe to toe and win? Or are you kind of hoping for just a puncher's chance in the game? To me, it's kind of the latter. So keep them on the sideline.
We talked about the amount of depth that we have at receiver coming into the season, and people even talking about trading DK after, I don't know, a bad game or a couple bad plays here and there throughout the first few games of the season. Yeah, let's keep him on the sideline and test that depth and see if people are maybe right that what this team might look like with or without DK Metcalf. I have a feeling that we'd miss him. I know I would miss him. Might miss him against the Bills, but it might also shift the strategy as to what you might decide and do. When you talk about taking on Coach Mike and his philosophies as we go through this season, did you see any growth to that then in this game against the Falcons?
Yeah, I think you did in some ways. First and foremost was the way that they were able to adjust in the second half and shut down the run, specifically outside to the left with Bijan. They were hammering that all first half, and it looked terrible. Like to the offense's left, right? To the defense's right-hand side.
Right.
And that's really where they did a lot of their damage. And at that point, Mike was able to get it under control. He talked about it in the presser that honestly, they didn't change a ton. It was more that the guys just played out each play in a better manner and were able to find their fits and all of that. So I think that's something that is encouraging. I think the offense for 3 quarters did actually try to get K9 more involved, a little too much Charbonnet again. Maybe that has to do with the illness. I kind of feel like if you strap it up and you're ready to go, you're ready to go. I don't think that you need
fine.
to baby.
He looked like he was doing okay.
Yeah. Geno's comment like, hey man, he was sick. Yeah, he was sick. Like, kind of like, yeah, okay, I know he didn't feel good, but he didn't feel that bad. It'd been a couple days and was probably on the kind of the tail end of the thing anyways. Not trying to take anything away from him, just saying that I still would like to see the ratio between K9 and Sharps change a little bit. Like full drives of Sharps is too much. I'd rather see who I think now after that game has proven himself to be the second best player on the entire offense. And that's taking nothing away from DK either, who, performed well. But I did see some growth in Grubb in the first half specifically. And I think that's encouraging. There's still the style of how they get after it bothers me a little bit. But look, if you're going to take steps, I'll take the baby steps at the very least. And, it did help with the offense, I think. How about you?
Depends. Was part of the growth from Grubb going back and using JSN as in the Shane Waldron playbook? Because I felt like he was using the Shane Waldron playbook for JSN. And I guess I'd even throw in that trick play that in no way I ever want to see JSN throwing passes down the field. If that's the kind of decision that's he going to make. DK made an awesome play, but not a good decision by JSN to throw that pass.
No, definitely not. Geno had a great joke about, throwing into double coverage and what it looks like when he does that usually, and how JSN got away with one there. And you're right. The use of JSN in the bubbles and that sort of stuff, just tear that page out of the playbook. We don't need it anymore. That is not JSN's game. But also with that said, what is JSN's game? I think we're getting to a point in his career where you're starting to look at it and be like, okay, I was told this guy was really good. And right now, he just doesn't have a lot to contribute to the offense. I mean, Tyler's outplaying him right now. Now, is that all a JSN problem, or is that the way that Grubb has it set up in the offense and the way the ball's supposed to be distributed? I don't know.
I think it's more the latter, because I went back and I watched all of the JSN plays where he was on the field. And just tried to get an idea of where he was within the progression for Geno. And it really did seem like, apart from the one where the play was set up for him down the field, where he almost had the touchdown, but the DB came over late, got his arm. That was the one where it looked like he was only going up for the touchdown catch with one arm. because he had the other one restricted. And then there were a couple third downs here and there that I think he had at least one solid third down conversion, one where Geno couldn't quite get the ball to him and ended up throwing it into the dirt. So it seemed more to me that he was just not really as part of the game plan as trying to get DK involved. Then in those big moments where you had to have it, like in that 1 minute drive down the field where they're trying to set it up and get into scoring position, ultimately score a touchdown with DK on a crazy good pass by Geno Smith down the seam. I think that he's just not getting that kind of involvement in called plays is basically what I saw going back and watching specifically for it.
Interesting. Okay. Well, I wonder, is it his lack of usage and called plays, as you put it, is that a result of the fact that when he's out on the field, are we seeing big separation from anybody? Are we seeing the incredible hands that we were all told about in the draft? Or are we seeing way more drops than we'd like? Do we see a great contested ball catcher? Do we see a guy who's a burner? His route running is fine. I just, when you have a Tyler Lockett at the stage of his career that he's in, which is, in the latter stages, still a great player, but when he's way outplaying you as a guy now in his second year, I start to get concerned. Now, I also conversely,
I was getting concerned too. That's why I went back and looked because, in terms of the separation part of it, that one that was designed down the field, I felt like he probably could have, I don't know. If it were Tyler in that situation, I think it would have been a touchdown to Tyler Lockett.
Exactly. And then I try to remind myself, conversely here, that it took Golden Tate 3 years to figure it out. It traditionally has taken a lot of receivers at least 2 years to figure it out. We're in the middle of year 2. So not saying it's time to have the JSN discussion, but it's getting to the point of I'm genuinely starting to wonder.
We'll give him a little time extra too, because he does have a new offensive coordinator. Let's see how this goes here then with DK being out against the Buffalo Bills, if ultimately ends up sitting out, which, like I said, it sounds like he will. After the game, Adam, I know that we complained a little bit. You mentioned that, I think we've both mentioned that Kenneth Walker, K9, maybe the second best player on the team, probably the second best player on the team. Are you saying Geno number 1, then K9, then DK? Is that how you're ranking this right now?
Geno, K9, DK.
Okay. Yeah, I feel like that's where a lot of this is coming from because he's really, really good. People are, I think, starting to catch on to that fact. After the game, we touched on it in our post-game reaction show. We got a comment here from Vinny L. 6420 out on YouTube, says, this isn't the first time you complained about rushing the ball. I agree we need to get the run game going, and under center would be great, but it isn't feasible in each of the games we played. In the Falcons game, sure, but in the drive after the fumble touchdown, when we picked him off, the next drive we ran the ball 4 times and passed twice, and then our last drive we ran in 3 straight attempts. And then Vinny kind of goes into some of the other games and maybe why they didn't run based on the situation, Lions, Niners, closes by saying there are definitely tweaks that Grubb needs to make, but to make your own random love affair of rushing, no matter what is going on in the game, is wildly insane. You talk about wasting K9's talents like Seattle doesn't have some of the best weapons for the pass game. That's from Vinny out on YouTube.
Yeah. No, we had to get back and forth, and we had to talk about that a little later in the show. Or maybe we could talk about it now. Basically, at the end of the day, when we're talking about the pass run ratio, it was better in this game. He brings up, they ran it the last 2 drives, but that was after the defense had already closed out the game, right? When it came down to winning time, offensively speaking, when the offense has its chance to tear the soul out of the opposing team. $1:30 left in the third, you're up 10 points, and you go on a drive where Sharp gets the first touch. And again, I'm almost at the point where I'd rather see Kenny out there than Sharps. He just looks so slow. I would so much rather see somebody a little more explosive, like, say, I don't know, the second best player in your offense, K9, who then only gets one touch that drive, and you throw the ball, what was it, another 4 times or something along those lines.
Yeah.
Idea being, that's the time. Like, I see progress, like he's changing the run pass ratio and did it better in the first half, got to closing out a game after the defense had already done it for you. Yeah, at the end of the game. That's nice. That's nice. But in those critical moments, like, that's why I was frustrated with it in the time. Like, that's the moment of the game to really take control of it. In those moments, those most important moments, you've got to do the right thing. And if Grubb is still reverting back to doing the wrong thing in terms of strategy in that moment, then I have a problem with it. In terms of running the ball in the other games, I've heard all the excuses, and that's just what they are. They're flat out excuses. And we watched the Ravens on Monday night get down 2 scores, run the hell out of the ball, take control of the game, and kick ass. So it's doable. You don't have to, panic down 2 scores.
We even saw it in this game. The Seahawks got up by 10 points, and lo and behold, the Falcons were very pass happy to start off this game. And it wasn't until they got Bijan Robinson involved and running against the Seahawks defense that they were able to move the ball effectively and put points up on the board. And they end up getting within 3 when it was 17-14. Well, they got within 3 when it was 10-7. The Seahawks able to put that touchdown up on the board right before the half, which was huge. But yeah, they started to see their offense work a little bit better when they got the run involved. And I was also bothered after the game, which is why I went back to really look and see what bothered me the most about it. And it wasn't necessarily the run pass ratio that I think I had the biggest problem with in the third quarter. It was because it was, and this was again part of going back and looking at to see how much JSN was involved. It was Ryan Grubb's kill shot third quarter. It was all kill shots, all third quarter by Geno Smith. And not necessarily Geno. I don't want to put this on him because it was the design play that Geno was running to throw it that far downfield because he was going with the first read semi-open, but it's because you're throwing 20 to 35 yards down the field that there were so many incompletions. Geno was great in the first half. They ran a normal offense where you do your short range passes, mid range passes, long range passes. And then we got to the third quarter. There were only 3 completions out of 11 second half passes for the Seahawks. The completions were a quick out to JSN, the touchdown pass to K9, which was 17 yards, which was the longest completion of the second half. And then he had a third down pass, an 8-yard pass to Tyler Lockett. To help extend one, I think it was that drive where they did have those 4 runs. The incompletions, deep shot to Tyler down the sideline for 25 yards, deep shot to JSN. That was the one where he went up with one hand. That was a 35-yard throw. Deep to Tyler for 30 yards, which Geno ended up getting called a roughing the passer call on Geno on that pass to Tyler. A deep shot to DK for 20 yards. There was one short pass in there. It was to JSN, and the defense got called for illegal use of the hand, so that actually didn't count. Bobo had the drop, which was about a 14-yard pass. Went deep to DK on the sideline for 25 yards. That was the play where DK got hurt on the sideline. And then the only other incompletion apart from that was the 3rd and 5 blitz that he kind of dirted in JSN's area. But it was all deep shots in the third quarter, Adam.
Wow, I had not realized just how egregious that was until you laid it all out there. Because you kind of got the feeling of it in the third quarter. And maybe that's why I was feeling as frustrated as I was, is because not only are we passing the ball a little too damn much here, but it's the high risk, high reward stuff. But again, like at that point, you come out in the second half and the Falcons make it a 3-point game and they were hanging around the game. You don't need to get cute and start to try to blow them out by 30 right there by, a bunch of circus plays. It does bother me. That's a style of offense that isn't sustainable. Being in the gun, throwing it downfield a zillion yards. I've watched teams live and die. If you try to live by the gun, you're going to die by the gun doing that stuff. And I watched the Bills do it my entire freaking childhood. So it does frustrate the hell out of me to watch offense play that way. And then when they do get up by 10 points at the end of the third quarter, they don't give it to their second best player and grind this thing out and close it out offensively. Like I said, fortunately, Coach Mike did a great job, got the defense to get those 3 turnovers, and they really were able to put their foot on the throat of the Falcons there. But I can see how the deep stuff irked you there. And when you lay it out that way, boy, it does frustrate me more. But with all that said, and as much as we've complained about, some people call it complain, I call it criticizing. However you want to look at it, that's fine. Maybe at the end of the day, as a fan, I'm going to have to readjust my expectations and just accept that this is the way Ryan Grubb is going to try to play offense this year. It's going to be soft football, and to just be happy watching the game instead of being irked by it, like kind of week in, week out.
I know. I think about that too, because it's hard to be irked about it in a 20-point victory, right? Because you're like, oh, I want to be happy because my team just won by 20. And so to go and then nitpick, it made me feel weird going through it and being like so nitpicky in terms of how that second half offense flowed. But it's just as it was nitpicky when Russ was doing the scribble plays, except instead of scribble plays and deep shots down the field, it's designed deep shots down the field. And again, that just doesn't seem like the way to run an effective offense as you're trying to close out the game when you've done so well doing it at kind of multi-levels up to that point.
Give Grubb a lot of credit. His past schemes in terms of the route combinations and what he's trying to get done really do work. And Geno let's give Geno a lot of the credit here as well, because holy smokes, against a terrible pass rush, they were still all over him all game. And he was incredible despite some of the incompletions we talked about in the second half. I mean, Ryan Grubb's damn lucky he's got Geno Smith instead of, say, Aiden O'Connell, or let's say even like Bo Nix, like you're a rookie OC with a rookie quarterback. Like, it would look a lot different and the success would be a lot lower. Geno's doing a phenomenal job, and it's really fun to watch. And his aggression, say, at the end of the first half in the second quarter there, I was like, 10 seconds left, let's quit screwing around, kick the field goal. Boy, was I dead wrong there. That was an amazing play that Grubb was able to scheme open. So there's some good stuff in there for sure. And if it sounds nitpicky, I don't think it is. I think we're talking about some of the most fundamental critical moments of the game and fundamental philosophy of football that he's going to have to adjust to for long-term success. And again, I don't really care about the record this year. I'd much rather see the culture and the philosophy and all that deeply embedded in the team to build on next year.
Well, we'll see how it works out moving forward against these Buffalo Bills, Adam. A game that we're going to be going out to, meeting up with our members of the flock, going to the game. Shoot, I think we still have 2 tickets left available in our group section. So, yeah, if anybody's looking last minute that wants to go to the game, hit us up. We still have a couple tickets left.
All right. Well, I think my dad wants one.
Okay.
Talk to him today.
You talked him into it?
So there's one. Yeah, he sounds like he's a go. We just got to talk a little bit about it. Logistics, me and you off air, but yes.
Sweet. All right. Well, we may have 1 ticket left, or maybe I can talk one of my daughters into going finally.
Yeah, there you go. Absolutely. That'd be a lot of fun.
Tried to talk my wife into going, but then she's thinking about how the kids are going to get to school since my mom's also going to the game. It's just we probably don't need to get into it. We've talked enough about the 1 ticket now that might be available for this game.
There you go. How dare she be practical and figure all the logistics out for you? Like that's It's terrible. But
one of us has to be practical, I guess.
Yeah, it's true. And I think I'm trying to take a practical approach to this Bills game because I'm looking at this, Brandon, and there is a path to victory. There is. Absolutely. Oh, yeah. It's not, complete dire straits or anything. But the Buffalo Bills are a damn good football team, and they are in almost every phase of the game. It's not that they don't have some weaknesses, but they're still like moderately good at the things that they're poor at. And it's going to take an all hands on deck effort from the Seahawks, and down DK and now changing things around in the middle of the defense with Ernest Jones. This is going to be interesting, man.
Well, wait a second here. If we're talking about offensive philosophy, this Buffalo offense is almost similar to the offense that we've been watching and the approach that we've seen Ryan Grubb taking. I think the offensive line a little bit better for Buffalo, and because Josh Allen, I think, has only been sacked 3 times this season. Geno hasn't been sacked a whole lot either, but a big part of that is Josh Allen's mobility. I think he is more well protected behind that line. And they do throw the football a lot, though. Like they're not a running football team. So as much as I maybe looked at games like the Detroit Lions and the Atlanta Falcons at having a tandem of good running backs to worry about, I think that the 2 backs that the Bills primarily use, they're good. James Cook's good. Ray Davis, young rookie who's good. But I don't think they use them as effectively as teams like the Falcons and Lions.
Well, I will say this, that in terms of their backs, I really like James Cook, and he's been a difference maker for them since they turned to him. I think it was last year. And then, boy, I watched the game where Ray Davis came in and was his replacement. That dude runs hard. He runs really hard. And in terms of the play calling, is it Joe Brady? He's the OC right now, right? Yeah, he replaced Dorsey, and they made the playoffs last year after a rough start by beginning to run the ball more. Now, do they run it at a clip that's near the top of the league? No. But do they do it like the Seahawks, which is dead last in the league? No. Like, they do it more than the Seahawks for sure. And when they do, it is effective. And as much as I love Geno, and I think he's a top 5 guy, there's 3 dudes in this league that you couldn't trade, anybody for them. Like the team's just saying, oh, hell no. And that's Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, and Patrick Mahomes. Like it doesn't matter what you could offer. You could offer 15 first-round picks for the rest of your life, and they still wouldn't trade the guy. So when you have somebody like Josh Allen as your quarterback, okay, you put the ball in his hands a little bit, and he creates a run game all himself as well. Yeah. These guys are terrifying.
It's a little bit terrifying. One thing that was interesting, just looking at some of the Buffalo run statistics, they don't run to the left for whatever reason. It's like 75% their runs to the right side, which is wild just based on the frequency that they run it anyway is not that high. If they are going to throw, though, a lot, I kind of like the matchup. We saw Job have a pretty decent game. We've seen Witherspoon kind of take away whoever seems to be lined up on him. And it's not like I look at the receivers for the Buffalo offense. Yes, they traded for Amari Cooper. I think that anybody we have in the secondary can cover Amari Cooper. I think that Keon Coleman, while he's kind of their speed guy, the times where I've seen him get the most separation are when other guys fall down or when they lose track of where he is. So I think we have the speed to keep up with him too. I think their most scary pass catcher is Dalton Kincaid.
Oh, 100%. I do completely agree with you in terms of potentially the corners. Do we know if Reek is going to be back for this game at this point, or Trey Brown?
Reek was back to practice this week. So I think, yeah. Who would you match up Reek with, though? Would you just say, hey, you're just going to be able to cover Amari Cooper because based on size, like you don't have to worry about speed. But what I'm wondering is if you ease him into it by going with Amari Cooper, or if you want him to cover their more speedy guy in Coleman.
I think you just put them out on the right side of the defense, and you're like, whoever runs out over here and wants to waste their time, you just cover them. And I think that's what you do with Reek there. And you're 100% right about Kincaid. Like Kincaid and Knox, who hasn't been used as much this year, having a down year. They're both really good pass catching tight ends. And that's something that the Seahawks have historically struggled with. They've struggled with it a bit this year. And that's the part that gives me pause. Their offensive line is pretty darn good. And so I think they're a better offensive line than the Falcons, let's say. And the Seahawks were able to get pressure on Kirk, but it wasn't overwhelming pressure all the time. And I think it's going to be something that you see throughout this game as well. Defensively speaking, they're a good defense, and they have been run on a bit here and there. But again, they're kind of middle of the pack when it comes to their run defense, and kind of whichever way you want to slice it. It's going to be tough sledding for the Seahawks, and especially playing a team with a real pass rush with Rousseau and all their guys up there, unlike the Falcons last week.
It's going to be a step up. Jarrell, I know some people are hesitant to give him his flowers right away after 1 week. Like, he didn't look like a dumpster fire. He looked like he might actually even be better than Stone Forsythe in his one game, which leads you to believe that the ceiling could be higher with Jarrell. So that part of it was pretty promising. But yeah, just in terms of pressure, I mean, Greg Rousseau, holy smokes, 34 total pressures, 4 sacks, which Epinesa also has 4 sacks coming off the edge, despite only having 12 total pressures. So his conversion rate's very high compared to Rousseau.
Yeah, it's going to be a tough day for Geno that way, but he has done a fantastic job taking pressure, which any way that it comes. In fact, I think he's one of the best in the league, like top 5 in when pressured quickly, and he's also being pressured quickly, like in the top 5 of the league. So he has the ability to get the ball out and do the things that need to be done there. It's going to be interesting to see if Ryan Grubb does take the relative weakness of the Bills offense and exploit it with K9. I don't want to hear any more excuses about he's sick, or, you know, his oblique is slightly strained or anything like that. And I would honestly like to see a little more Kenny Mack than Sharps there as well. And if they can do that a little bit, I think it would make life a lot easier for Geno throughout the game.
With as explosive as the Bills are, you know, if they end up getting up early, then I go back to that excuse of, well, we fell down early, which is why we didn't get the run game involved. And so I think we would tend to see that again if the Bills were to get that explosive start, get out ahead early, which historically this season, have they been a get out quickly type of team?
Again, this whole, do they get out fast? Do they do? I really, it does just, like, it frustrates me. Because
I think it has an impact on our Seahawks, though.
I think that it shouldn't in any way. Like, basically, you should be playing the same, almost no matter what, in terms of what your goals are each and every drive, whether that's offensively or defensively. Defensively, you should be trying like hell to get a 3 and out, and offensively, you should be trying to score touchdowns every drive. And then we just can argue about the best way to get after that. But, you know, we watched the Giants win 2 Super Bowls by being smart offensively and running the rock against the Patriots, who had crazy good explosive offense, and keeping possession of the ball and limiting the number of possessions throughout the game. That's how you can keep an explosive offense like the Bills in check, so that you don't end up down 3 or 4 scores. If it's 2 scores or less, you should be able to kind of stick to your game plan and try like hell to help out the defense as much as you can.
Yeah, it looks like outside of maybe the game against Miami and Jacksonville, Buffalo hasn't gotten out to the quickest of starts. In fact, they were even down 10-0 this past week against the Tennessee Titans before they went on their 34-point run. So just looking back at those first quarter box scores for the Buffalo Bills, it does seem like they may tend to start out more on the slower end, but they have had solid second quarters almost the entire season.
Sure. Yeah. And Josh Allen has been good throughout this season, sans the Texans game. That was the one, hey, look, he is mortal, and had a poor performance.
They only put up 10 points against the Ravens, though.
It hasn't been all sunshine and roses for the Bills this year. That's for sure. They're not, completely undefeatable or anything like that, but it's going to be, this is why the Falcons win was such a huge win for the Seahawks. To go in, beat a team that you're supposed to beat the way that they did, get you back in the positive column, being at 4-3 and leading your division while the Niners sucked butt and lost. It was a great week that way, but it sets you up to go into a game like this, which is challenging, and not feel like if it doesn't go your way, your path to the playoffs starts looking super dismal, like if you're a Jets fan.
Yeah, it's fun to talk about the fact that there is a path toward the playoffs. Being at the top of the division at 4-3, yeah, it helped that the Niners lost this last week, but the Rams won, the Cardinals won. So all these teams are going to be right in it. And man, getting a win this week against the Bills, that really would, I think, propel this team into a conversation where I think where there was some hesitation after the first 3 weeks going undefeated, and then after losing 3 straight and people thinking, oh, well, this is a bad team, a win against the Buffalo Bills, that I think it changes it more toward the front end of the year after the 3 games, and wondering, well, hey, maybe there is something to this Mike McDonald led team.
Even if it's a close loss where they really made it tough on the Bills the entire game and it was close, that would be one of those types of games that I'd look back on and be like, oh my gosh, okay, we are seeing something closer to the 3-0 team rather than the team that went 0-3 there for a stretch. So there's a lot of positives that can come out of this game. And yeah, victory over the Bills would be, that'd be a statement game at that point. Now you got my attention. We're at a point in the season where you kind of know which teams are the better teams. And if you can pull off that sort of win at home, I think that puts everybody on notice at this point, being like, okay, this is coming together for Coach Mike.
So if DK is out in this game, how do you think the team should respond to that? I feel like we're going to hear calls for more Bobo and more JSN. Is that what you want to see?
Well, you're going to have to, if you're going to play this type of philosophy, that offensive philosophy that we've been playing, then there's going to be a lot of footballs to be caught out there. And without your guy who's been featured as the true number one, somebody's going to have to step up. If it were JSN, I think that's one of the best things for this team, because I think we need to see it. I think he needs to feel it. I think he needs some success to really kind of get him going in the way that we had all hoped that he would when he was drafted. It's a tremendous opportunity for him. If it ends up having to be Tyler that takes the load here, then I do think that's a bit of a disappointment in terms of the team's development. But at the end of the day, broken record, I know, your third best player is not in the game. Give it to your second best player.
I think that I want to see more K9, and I want to see more Laviska Shenault. I want to see, I think with DK out, it even offers the opportunity to get some more formations where Sharps is in the backfield and K9's out wide. If you're going to use him in the passing game, then try and force the defense into making some decisions of how they want to cover K9, and see if you can take advantage of some mismatches that way. So I think that those opportunities, they have the potential to be there. And as much as I would love to see more Bobo just because it's more fun, I feel like Jake Bobo's ceiling is Jermaine Kearse. And I just can't take any more of the nonsense about trading DK so we can get Bobo more involved.
Oh, I didn't even know that was quote unquote a discussion with anybody, because that's crazy. Yeah, I mean, if his ceiling is Jermaine Kearse, Super Bowl winning wide receiver Jermaine Kearse, I'm cool with that. I could take that. But Bobo's going to get his touches naturally within the flow of the offense with DK out. Like he doesn't need to be featured or anything like that. I really like your suggestion about Laviska getting more touches, because you can be so creative with the ways that you get him the ball. He's much more the gadget guy than JSN is. I think if you take, JSN out of that role and put him playing outside a little bit more and get Laviska involved there, he's a very dynamic player. It's been a pleasant surprise. I was wrong in my way of thinking regarding Laviska when they brought him in. I didn't think he was a guy that was a difference maker. And there are times where he really can be, and I've been impressed.
Oh, I wanted to point out, too, when I went back and just for some balance here, we were critical about the way that the Seahawks kind of closed out the second half. I was watching the second half of the Bills-Titans game. The Bills ran the ball 10 times, and they were up 24 points in the second half. Yeah. They only ran the ball 3 more times in the second half compared to the first half. In blowing out the Titans.
And a lot of people might throw that back in your face too, Brandon, and say, well, look, they're really good. You just said they're really good offensively, all that. Yeah. This time of year, you bet. How many chips have the Bills won since Josh Allen's been there? How many times have they even been to the AFC Championship game? I
know.
This sort of stuff doesn't work long term. That's all I'm getting at.
And playing in a part of the country where that ends up being the way that you win those cold football games. I mean, I think it's part of the reason why the Green Bay Packers got Josh Jacobs, is so they can play style of football in the cold, in Lambeau, come late November, December, and then to the playoffs.
That's why the Texans went and got Joe Mixon. There's 1,000 examples of this, and it's important stuff.
The Texans play in generally good weather, but yes, if they need to go on the road, which you would assume they might
they're going to have to go on the road.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, ultimately, if you're in the AFC, what are you doing? You're looking up and you're saying, we got to knock off the Chiefs in Arrowhead. That's all you're thinking about.
Fortunately for our Seahawks, we don't have a playoff game in Arrowhead to worry about, who would you worry about? I guess you worry about Lambeau.
Detroit?
knocking up. Yeah. Well, Detroit's indoors. But if you have to go play a cold weather game in January, it's in Lambeau that you have to worry about.
Yeah, Lambeau for sure, because Minnesota also indoors. So that helps. In terms of the NFC East, I don't fear any of those teams. I don't care where you play. And there's going to be one playoff team that comes out of there. I mean, the South, same kind of thing. So, yeah, I mean, this is one of those kind of rando years where it's basically Green Bay is the one that you're worried about. And that's about it in terms of a bad weather game late.
See what a win does for us. A 20-point victory over the Falcons. It has us looking ahead to the playoffs, Adam. We got to enjoy it while we can.
Absolutely. 4-3, 7 weeks in. That's honestly, I'm thrilled with that. I really am. That's about as good as I could have hoped for, I think, with this coaching staff coming out and putting their stamp on this thing. I'm optimistic overall that way. That's pretty cool.
We've got a lot more cool stuff to talk about, Adam, as I think we get into the second half of the show.
All right, let's do it.
Couple other news items for our Seahawks, Adam, as we get into the second half of the show. We have the Seahawks claiming former Ravens linebacker Josh Ross off of waivers, and also bringing in former Ravens cornerback Demarion Williams. He was drafted by Baltimore back in 2022. This is another player that I think we snagged from the Titans.
Interesting. So, yeah, John Schneider going to the well of the AFC South a lot here with some of these acquisitions with RRH and, Ernest Jones, and now this corner that will be much like Josh Jobe to me, probably, in terms of I won't think about him. I won't remember that he's on the roster. Then all of a sudden, if he ends up out there, he'd probably end up playing good, and I'll be really excited about it. So, yeah, interesting to see how aggressive they're being in season.
I don't know why I said Titans. I think it was, I think he's just been with the Ravens that entire time.
Oh, okay.
Demarion Pepe Williams.
Oh, wow. Okay. Well, that's kind of fun. Pepe.
4th round pick back in 2022. And we didn't really talk a whole lot apart from, mentioning that we saw some good things out of Jarrell on the offensive line. But in terms of, I suppose we saw some nice stuff too about the former Jaguars interior defensive lineman making some plays for our Seahawks.
He did. To Jarrell, I think the play strength is better than Stone Forsyth, and you really did see it in the run game. Technique is a work in progress for a dude coming out of Division II, but I think he's earned himself the shot to play again this week while we wait on the news that Abe Lucas is back to being approved to practice. Like, I guess all I had to do, Brandon, was just give up on it and then have hope. Things. Yep. Yeah, and then finally things started to sound a little bit better here. And so you'd mentioned Jarrell. Who was the other guy that you had mentioned? Oh, Roy Robertson Harris. Yeah. Another guy who did play strong at the point of the attack. He did get turned a few more times than I'd like to see, but was getting some penetration and a nice depth piece, a nice add.
One thing we probably didn't talk enough about in the first half of the show, Adam, and going back and watching it, just how disruptive Byron Murphy was in this game, whether it was blowing up some runs in the backfield. I mentioned it in the Discord, the cut up of a lot of those Byron Murphy plays where he was in the face of Kirk Cousins on both of those intercepted passes by Julian Love and by Kobe Bryant. It was interior up the middle pressure by Murphy that probably caused those balls to be sailed a little bit high over the receiver's head.
Oh man, pressure up the middle, especially on a guy like Kirk Cousins, that is going to lead to some errant passes, no doubt about it. And I did realize that Byron was in on one of those pressures. I didn't realize it was both. And that's pretty amazing. You did see him have the nice play in the backfield there on the runner. And, some people pointing out 4-0 with Byron Murphy in the lineup. Is just that one guy? Is he really that difference? I'm going to say no.
Did you take that into account? Like when you're saying that you were a little bit pessimistic about the Seahawks opportunity, were you taking into account that Byron Murphy is going to be playing on Sunday for our Seahawks?
Yeah, I was taking that into account, but I was also taking into account with the fact that I just feels unlikely that he's that impactful for the defense. But if he is, and we go 5-0 here, I can't wait to eat all my words and declare him the greatest D lineman in the game right now. That would be amazing.
Well, if he had that much impact again this week and being as disruptive against Buffalo as he was against Atlanta, maybe we just need to find a way. Because I know he said something to the effect that he had heard the Falcons, passed on him. They did pass on him. And so he wanted to make them pay. I don't think Buffalo had the opportunity to pass on him, but he needs to find a way to at least motivate himself then to believe that he has something extra special. Like we need to start telling him that Josh Allen said some bad things about his mom, that he thinks that some of his siblings aren't very attractive. We need to start getting that word back to Byron Murphy.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, Josh Allen is too fast and too twitchy of an athlete for Byron Murphy to ever even get close to him throughout a game. I hope he hears about that. That'd be good. Anything else we can conjure up for locker room material for Mr. Murphy?
I feel like we've explored all the depths of our insults here.
Okay,
we're not very good at this.
No, especially when I don't mean them in any way. It's tough.
Well, I know some people who we are not going to be insulting. It is our members of the flock. They went to getintheflock.com. They're helping to support the show. Shoot, you can go to getintheflock.com. You can join as a free member now. And that way you can get an email as soon as we post the shows there. We post updates of when our shows like 3 and 3 Out, Seahawkers What If, and the PNW Prop Stars show when that goes to the Hawkra feed on the Believe Podcast Network. So you can get all the notifications there, lots of shows throughout the week. And even if you're not there out on YouTube, you get the notifications there. But we've got our executive producers to thank. We've got DCH. We've got Brian Shaw, Ryan Peterson, our live executive producer out on YouTube, JC Schilling and the 313th, and Brian Lowry. And Adam, he's back. Stephen Kirkpatrick is back, coming in with the $34.14 donation, the score donation. It was so happy to see that come in postgame.
Absolutely. Not only just for the win, but a big win to make Stephen pony up even more than he normally does. That was awesome and always appreciated, man. It's something that I know Brandon specifically really does look forward to, and just a cool tradition, man. Really neat.
I like all the donations because it means like you enjoy the show well enough to support it at any monetary amount. So I love that. Whether it's just the $3 minimum just to get into the Discord group on game day, that's cool. But I like it when people have like little added twists that they put on donations, just to personalize them a little bit. And that's what Steven does.
Absolutely. The creativity is really cool there.
So getintheflock.com, or if you want to shoot over a Venmo at Hawkra, if you want to mail a check sometimes. And I mentioned just a couple shows ago how we got a box of jerseys to give away for the Pick'em League. You know, our P.O. Box 8642 in Kalispell, Montana. That address is up on the website, Seahawkerspodcast.com. So all the ways that you want to help support us. And we're going to be supporting, hopefully, Guaranteed Barbecue on our way out to Seattle. Hopefully we can stop by there. I can imagine if you're heading out on Friday, Adam, Guaranteed Barbecue is going to be a place that you stop off there in Smelterville, Idaho.
Oh, not only that, but Garen doesn't know this yet, but I might just sleep in his food truck. I might just show up there and break in, maybe eat any of the prep that he's already been doing for the day before selfishly, and then sleep on the floor because I'm a jerk.
That's a good idea. I'm glad you had that plan and that Garen's hearing about it now through the show.
Yeah. Well, at least this way it'll be less of a surprise. No, I would never do that. And I don't even know if I'm going to head out Friday or not yet, because it sounds like my dad might tag along. So we'll see how that all works out. Yeah.
Lots of logistics to work out. I know that there's a new restaurant that opened up in North Bend that one of our Discord members posted about. They're going to be doing a little Flocker discount, and I might have to make a stop in North Bend if we're going through there on Saturday and track that place down.
Yeah, twist my arm. I like North Bend. That's kind of the last stop, like in the mountains before you have to descend into the city, and it feels nice.
Bread and Bone is the name of the restaurant, and also doing 12% off Little Flocker discount. So definitely going to want to check that out.
Heck yeah, man. See, one of the hidden benefits to listening to this show, there are some cheaper ways to eat good food.
Yeah, we need all the places between if you own somewhere that serves food between Montana and Seattle. Adam and I need to know.
Yeah, 100%. We're in.
We're also going to be in at Bahama Breeze in Tukwila, Washington, Saturday night, 8 p.m. If you are going to go to that meetup, please find a way to let us know, either getintheflock.com, through the Discord. We have a meetup channel there, or just send us an email, gohawks@seahawkerspodcast.com, just so we can make sure that we have the right amount of chairs for the right amount of people. But that's where we intend to be Saturday night.
Heck yeah, that's going to be a lot of fun. If you do happen to be around, come down and hang out. We'll have a beer. It'll be a good time.
Always a good time. We'll probably meet up afterward as well. One of the things that I found out, Adam, is that the place that we used to go to, Pizza Professional, there is a new restaurant there.
Oh, okay. What is it? Also pizza, or did they zag it?
It's Korean food and pizza.
Ooh.
I know.
Okay. Yeah, that's exciting.
So I think we're at least going to have to try it this time going out there. I think that that's going to have to be our post-game hangout place.
Okay. I'm in. I'm definitely willing to, give it a shot here. That sounds interesting.
Drunken Pizza and Pocha. Pocha?
Drunken Pizza it is.
And they have a TV there. I confirmed that we can watch the game, so we can watch a little Sunday Night Football. I know that was, I think, an issue at Katsu Burger last time we were there.
Yeah, I think it was.
They couldn't get the remote to work.
That's right. Oh, I totally forgot about that. Yeah. No, that was frustrating.
All right. Pick'em League updates, Adam. Thursday Night Football. Who you got? Who's playing? I don't know. I was hoping that you knew, so that way I wouldn't have to look it up.
Oh, gosh, no. No. I can
Vikings
probably bring it up.
Rams in LA.
Oh.
95% expecting the Vikings to bounce back from their loss to Detroit this past week and clobber the stupid Rams.
I don't know about that, man. Vikings were exposed. They lost a game. They're terrible. Sam Darnold turned into a pumpkin. It's over. This is going to be the Rams by 2 scores, probably. I don't believe a word of that.
It is funny, though, to look at the spread. I just assumed that it was going to be a spread very much in favor of the Vikings. They're favored by 3 on the road on a Thursday night, but it is only a 3-point favorite.
I believe in the depth of my soul because the Seahawks are also +3 going into this game against the Bills. So Bills favored by 3.
Mm-hmm.
The Seahawks and Bills are much closer together as teams than the Vikings and the Rams right now.
It does seem that way for sure. Currently 17% going with the Seahawks. So still in risk pick territory, but not as... It's funny how a week changes things. Everybody was so against us in the pick'em just as a whole. Because what was it, like 95? No, it was 89%. Yeah, because it was down to 11%, I think, when we made our picks last week.
How'd we end up last week, Brandon, after I attempted to go 100% and you tried to defy me?
We'll let Evie get to that with her email. But before we get to Evie and our Pick'em League Overlord, we do have an email from Merlin, FCSP, saying, "Dear Brandon and Adam and Overlord Evie, I'm sorry for causing the Hawks to lose last week with my bad Hawkra. I tried to do better this week, and luckily it worked, and the guys won against the Falcons. From now on, I promise to pick the Seahawks every week in the Pick'em League. Go Hawks, and greetings from Germany from Merlin."
Hey, no, that's awesome, Merlin. And, look, it shows that Evie's leadership style is working and affects the changes that we need to affect in the flock here. And Merlin got it figured out, man. He's on the right side of things from here on out, and we appreciate it, man.
If you don't realize by now what we're doing with the Pick'em League, like, we don't want people in our Pick'em League to have to make a choice every week to pick against their own team or not, like, because you want to have fun, enjoying the game, wanting your team to win. I don't want to bring any other dynamic into this to where, I kind of want the Seahawks to lose now because then I can take a lead. I need to make up a game in the Pick'em. This completely takes it out of it. And so you're welcome.
100% makes it easier on your Hawkra. It makes it easier on everything throughout game day. And like you said, it levels the playing field. Nobody gets an unfair advantage for, say, like choosing the Bills this week when they're a large favorite.
Right.
Like, you don't have to worry about that. I love it. I think it's one of the best policies we've ever come up with in the history of the show.
And then if you choose to pick against them, which why would you, like you did with the Falcons? Shoot, I'll let Evie explain. Dear underlings, have you not learnt? How do you not know I am watching? Your foolish attempts to get around our simple rules baffle me. You are not only letting yourself down, but also your Seahawks. Not you, Bronco Jared. You let yourself down every day by supporting the Broncos. This week, 4 of you who do not have special dispensation picked against the Seahawks. And they won. Your pick will not be changed. However, you will have bad Hawkra and forever that little red stain next to your name of having picked the Falcons instead of the Seahawks. Bronco Jared also picked the Falcons, which serves him right. If he followed our usual rules, he would have gotten one more right. I feel that a double fanfare is in order this week, not just for me as Overlord, but for Danish Meadhawks, who picked a perfect week, 15 of 15. Dad was doing, yes. How about some fanfare for Danish Meadhawks? Dad was doing some work with a school in Denmark a while back and described it as the happiest country he'd ever been to. They should be even happier now as they celebrate a perfect week. Overall, Boyes Blitz Brigade is still sitting pretty in number one spot with 76 picks correct, but has opened up a 2-pick gap to second place where Donovan Meisner and Wirehawk sit on 74 picks. Dad is up into the top 5, tied in 4th place with 73 picks. With 4 others, he is working away this week, so don't know how happy he is with how he did, but he probably hates someone who didn't do what he wanted them to. In the Brandon versus Adam mini league, Adam is sitting on 68 correct picks, while Brandon is floundering on 61 correct picks. And on the week-by-week results, Adam has crushed the comeback and is reasserting his dominance going into a 5-2 lead. Neither of you were anywhere near perfect, by the way. Do better! Enjoy your meetup at the Bills game. I know Dad is jealous and would love to fly out for one. However, he is quite rightly too scared of my mom to spend that much money on going to an American football game. Have a great week. Love Evie and go Hawks.
Hey, go Hawks, Evie. Love you back. And yeah, maybe next time Seahawks go out that way, we'll catch up with you guys. But yeah, Brandon, you tried to be a contrarian last week and pick against me on a bunch of picks, and I went from a 4 to what now, a 7-game lead? Is that right?
Yeah, 7-game lead. I should have gone with my instinct after the afternoon games and just switched all my picks to what you had for Sunday night and Monday night, and then I would have beat you last week. But I got greedy, and that did not pay off for me.
Hey man, I respect the aggressiveness though. I mean, you didn't settle for a field goal with 10 seconds left at the end of the second quarter. You were trying to throw a touchdown pass to DK. Yeah. And mine went and got picked off by the opposing team. So unfortunately, it didn't work out for me. But it did work out for Danish Meadhawks. And so I think having this perfect week, we got to give Danish Meadhawks the pick of one of these Seahawks jerseys that I have behind me that I announced last week. 1,000%. I think that's a very fitting prize for an undefeated week. Gosh, that's super impressive. I know Evie said that I had dominance going on, and it's just blind luck. Danish Meathawk, I think, is much more skilled at this, obviously.
It's super impressive. And shoot, it's even super impressive what the folks did with the three-way tie then the previous week, because technically they picked a perfect week outside of the Seahawks, letting us down to the against the 49ers. But so if we get to the end of the season and we don't have any more perfect weeks, I say the other three jerseys then go to those three who ended up tying last week for having almost the near perfect week.
You know, you may have bad picks, Brandon, but you come up with great ideas, especially with the prizes and stuff. I think you're onto something here. It's really good stuff.
All right. Well, good stuff from John the Bard Davison, who writes in and says, well, Adam, I don't know how you manage that, but keep doing it for the rest of the season. That was a comprehensive thrashing, and it was great. I loved it. I don't want to pick anyone out, as it was an all-around team performance, and I'm including the coaching staff here. To go into Atlanta and steamroller them was the best game so far, and it just proved what an up-and-down season it's going to be. We think it's going great, then we lose 3, and when we think we are going to make it 4, we win again. So, what's going to happen this week? Bugger if I know, but strap yourselves in, people, because it's going to be a wild ride. This is going to gel the team together, and we will come through stronger. Go Hawks, and enjoy your get-together from the Bard.
Appreciate it, John. Wish you could be there, man, but understand why the distance is too great. But, hey, look, okay, I'm not going to lie. I do like to toot my own horn. But at the end of the day, I was one of the few people in all of Seahawks media anywhere saying that this was going to be a dominant performance by the Seahawks. They had my back. They came through. And Mike McDonald, he actually earned the preemptive Better at Life Than Skip Bayless award that I gave him for the first time ever last week. So that was fun.
Man, imagine what could happen then if you give him back-to-back Better at Life Skip Bayless picks going into a game against the Buffalo Bills. This may be just a tradition that has to keep going until it's not.
Does it? Because I really don't believe it this week if I was doing it. Like, I was feeling it against the Falcons for all the reasons I had rattled off going into that game. But, I mean, if you want me to look stupid, which are stupider than I normally do, I'm happy to do it. It makes it easy each and every week.
Look, I am the fan that wants to make sure that I wear the exact right socks for the right moment to make sure if there's anything that I do that can help the team win, that I'm doing it. And so I'm always looking for just these little ways. But, that's part of the superstition in me.
Okay. All right. I hear you. I understand. I haven't been quite as thorough in what hat I'm wearing or what hoodie I'm wearing or anything like that in the game. I'm sure to be wearing Seahawks gear, but I've kind of tried to forget about which one I'm wearing at different times so that it doesn't become a superstition this year, because last year it seemed like no matter what I did, it didn't help. It was always the wrong thing. So I don't know.
Whatever your superstition is, just keep up with it. And hopefully our Seahawks just get this win regardless.
I mean, there is a path. There is a chance. I'm saying there's a chance.
How to do better and better at life.
All right, man. My do better this week is for a research group and this is a mouthful, their name of their place here, the Louis L. Borick Natural Medicine Research Center at Hadassah University Center in Jerusalem. So at this tiny place, where these botanists work, that had to have such a long name, they did something really stupid, Brandon. You know what they did? They're playing Plant Jurassic Park. That's what they're doing in this lab. They took a seed that they found out in the freaking desert that they didn't know what it was, but they knew it was like 800 years old or so, and they planted it. They actually got it to germinate. The thing started growing, and they didn't take into account any of the bad things that could happen. Now, to be fair, none of those things have come to fruition yet. But I've seen the movie Jurassic Park. I know what happens when you play with things like this. That plant is extinct for a freaking reason. It couldn't compete to stay on the field. It got benched, and that's where it should stay. You don't be bringing back stuff that's long since dead. We have no idea the knock-on effects of this stuff. So this team, they planted it. It was 10 years ago. They got it to grow. It's a tree now, and it hasn't done anything yet. Hasn't flowered, hasn't fruited. They still don't know exactly what it is, and they're letting this thing live. We'll see what happens. I think one of these days, like, this thing is going to kill off, like, all the wheat on the planet or something like that. Good. I think this is a terrible, terrible idea. And to all of those researchers down there at that incredibly long-named research facility, do better.
Might have a Little Shop of Horrors situation. You don't know. You just don't know what could happen with planting random plants.
They think it's like some plant that produced a bomb or something that was in the Bible, and who cares? I don't care. Leave the thing. It's
so
dead.
Help me if Rick Moranis has to come back and start chopping up people to feed to this tree just so our species can survive.
Exactly. Rick's got to be getting up there now. We can't be asking him to do this stuff.
No, once was enough. Twice, we might be testing it a little bit. My do better this week is for Dov Kleinman out on Twitter. Reek Woolen, he posted a screenshot of him watching the game, watching our Seahawks, because he couldn't, he wasn't there live, but he was watching Boye and Derek Hall make that incredible play where Boye swats it out of the hand of Kirk Cousins, puts the ball on the ground. Derek Hall runs it in for a touchdown. And one of the astute members of Twitter, NFL_Dov Kleinman, noticed that Reek Woolen was using a little thing called meth streams to watch the game. So Reek not watching it on standard TV, no, going through an illegal bootleg football stream to watch the game. And he was calling Reek out for it in the end, also putting this website out there. Like, the NFL likes to shut these things down. And now how, if Reek needs to watch the stream, shoot, if there's other fans who watch and stream the game this way, they might not be able to watch the game because of stupid Dove Kleiman calling this out on Twitter and calling Reek out for using meth streams to watch the game. Do better.
Yeah, man, you can't be out in these things. There's people that can't afford Sunday ticket and stuff, and this is what they have to do. Now, is Reek somebody that can't afford Sunday ticket? No. But with that said, if he ever needs my YouTube TV login, he can have it. Like, I'd be happy to share it with Reek. And
that's my YouTube TV login.
Oh, I've got another one.
Okay.
Yeah, I've got two. Yeah.
Gotcha.
So we're good. We're good. No, I paid for it personally as well. So we didn't have to worry about too many streams going at once.
Oh, good.
So
I've run into that. So I was wondering if maybe it was you or me or Clinton or.
Oh, I'll check too. I'm like in my own account, Google account, right, for YouTube. And it'll say I've reached too many streaming thingies, and it's like I'm one dude.
Yeah.
Like, what's going on?
So it's not just me that's happening too. Although I think my mom has it on hers. I think Clinton might have the login. So, that might have something to do with it on my end.
Yeah. Well, look, like I said, Freak needs a hookup here. Happy to help him out here. But at the end of the day, Dove, like, what are you doing, buddy? Like, you really are just kind of screwing a bunch of people over.
Yeah. Some people need the free stream. Some people end up in blacked out areas that should not be blacked out. Like,
yes,
in Western Montana, sometimes they'll black out the game for no reason. Like, I'm supposed to just have a local affiliate here that's going to show the game 8 hours outside of the Seattle area. It makes no sense.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure the FCC would have a problem with the size of antenna I'd have to place on the mountain over here to pick up King 5 all the way over in Seattle. Yeah.
Not a better at life.
All right, man. Well, my better at life and Skip Bayless this week was going to be for Vinny in the YouTube comments, because he did a great job in his discussion in everything on there. And I really did appreciate the respectful manner that he went back and forth. It was a fun debate. But Brandon, you baited me into it. I have to do it. My better at life for Skip Bayless this week is preemptively for Mike McDonald for his upcoming victory over the Buffalo Bills. He's going to show that this secondary and pass rush are going to be able to get after Josh Allen in a way that he hasn't seen all year. Their rarely used run game isn't going to hurt him all that much. And Geno Smith and company, they're going to run the rock. They're going to put up a ton of points, and it's going to be a dominant victory over the Buffalo Bills here to get to 5 wins, to bury the 49ers even further back in the standings, and really cement the upcoming and ongoing greatness of our amazing head coach, Mike McDonald. He is better at life than Skip Bayless, preemptively.
Back-to-back weeks, better at life than Skip Bayless. He heard your call last week. He got the team prepared and ready for the Falcons, smash him by 20 points. Let's see if he's listening this week, Adam.
Hey, man, the way you put it earlier in the show, I felt like I wasn't doing my part as a fan and that my hawker would suffer if I didn't put it out there. If I have to look stupid, then I have to look stupid doing it. That's fine. Like, it's all about the team. I'm putting my body and reputation on the line here.
Yeah, and I guess sorry to Vinny for not getting better at life. But, you put up some good arguments on YouTube. But getting a better at life nod, even when you're wrong, that seems odd.
Yeah, that's the thing. At the end of the day, it was a great conversation between me and Vinny. I mean, he is still dead wrong, and that's okay. Like, it's all right. But I appreciated where he's coming from, and it was a lot of fun. Plus, I was home alone all weekend with nobody to talk to. So, I got to, play angry internet argument, and that was something to pass the time.
The way you guys both laid it out, too, was impressive, going point by point each time. And because you had like 7 different arguments that you were going back and forth on. And so you laid them out bullet point wise. As far as online comment section arguments go, very, very well structured.
I think we did great. Like, we worked together well as a pair, me and Vinny, on this. And, you could go back and read it, I guess, if you want. Just know that I'm still right.
Yeah, well, from some fun news to some sad news with My Better Life this week. Sadly, we saw the passing of the former team reporter Tony Ventrella, who passed away this past week.
Oh,
yeah, it's a big bummer because when you think of that era of going back with the Seahawks, I mean, the entire early part of the Pete Carroll era, it was Tony Ventrella. Even before that, Tony on the sidelines with the Seahawks. I mean, I felt like it was Tony that really delivered us into that era of, like, kind of crossed over the era of team reporting just on the news, on the website, to then doing video and having those insider reports that really brought you and connected you with the team. It was Tony Ventrella with Seahawks.com that was doing all that over a long span of time. And it was really sad to see him pass. But Tony Ventrella, for giving us all the great Seahawks content over the years and really connecting us to the team that way online and in so many ways. You are better at life than Skip Bayless.
Oh, man, I hadn't heard that. That's super sad. And obviously our condolences to the family and all of that. Tony was awesome, man. Like, he just had kind of this kindness about him and an aura about him in the way they reported about the team that was infectious. I always really enjoyed listening to him talk about football and the way he connected with people. Yeah, great dude. That's tough news to hear.
Yeah, super sad. Passed away at the age of 80. Sounded like he had his family by his side. It was Chris Egan of King 5 TV that posted the news out on Twitter. And that's where I ended up seeing it.
Well, wherever Tony's at this point, I hope you're kicking ass up there too, man. Awesome dude.
Hopefully Tony is watching down from above in watching our Seahawks get this victory against the Buffalo Bills coming up on Sunday.
Yeah, me too, because I basically guaranteed it at the end of the pod. So any help here, Tony, would be great.
And we're going to be very close to Tony being as far up in the stands as we are in Lumen Field this Sunday.
That's right. We can feel the connection a little better from up there. But as is Lumen Field, all the seats are great seats, especially when you're kicking the crap out of the Buffalo Bills.
And I think with that,
there's only one thing left to say.
Go Hawks.
Go Hawks.